tonight. Discussion is going to be about the P. Diddy trial, day 14. Then there was a lot of stuff that happened in today's hearing, her testimony with Mia and an introduction of two other witnesses that is about to take the stand. But the cross examination for Mia continued today, and it was a brutal one, y'all. When I say brutal, I mean it was a brutal one. As well as I wanted to also discuss about P. Diddy's right hand woman, and her name is Christina Coren. Another, well, she's not a KK, she's a CC. But these, man, these names here. But do we think they're going to call her to the witness stand? Because that could be very damaging to P. Diddy. Because if anybody knows absolutely anything about P. Diddy, it will be Christina Cohen Ram. She has been his right hand person. She knows the ins and out of everything. The fact that they pressing charges against her as well lets you know there's probably something going on there as far as the prosecution, like as of like some deal or something. This is going to be interesting as this trial continue to spearhead its way out. But far as today's discovery, Mia resumed on the stand for today. And she was cross-examined by the defense. And once again, that darn Brian Steele uh, tore her to shreds, basically making mockery of her testimony that she had given to the prosecution. I mean, he wasn't poking holes; he was poking. It wasn't holes. It was literally destroying. He was blasting her testimony that she had given to the prosecution, basically making it seem like, woman, you are basically praising this man. Do you hear me now, Ruben? You said there was no sound. Do you hear me now? I cannot tell it. I don't have anything blocked far as me, but let me put this other headset in. Maybe you can hear me then. Can you hear me? Hopefully you can hear me on this live. Welcome to the live. Thank you so much as you're entering in. Please hit that like button and let the algorithm know we're having a good time in here. And I do and will open up the floor to the room as well, so that way they give their opinion about the PDD trial and how they feel it is going at this current time. Thank you, Ruben, for confirming that you hear me. Thank you so much. Don't forget to hit that like button. But we were talking about Mia in her cross examination by Brian Steele, who was basically annihilating this woman on the stand. One thing I do want to point out that I did point out in my video is they really need to get a handle on that jury, because that jury is doing some damage when it comes to the prosecution when they stand up and cross-examine the defense, when they stand up and cross-examine the prosecution witnesses. They're showing too much emotion and expression to where a lot of people are starting to pick up on whether or not, are they trying to signal how they feel about what is going on. They're supposed to stay neutral and biased. So I did find out that the prosecution side was giving out quite a few objections on today's hearing to the prosecution when they were talking to the defense, when they were talking to me. Um, but even with some of the stuff they were saying, man, they was like really tearing this woman up. You hear me? Talking about how she basically worshiped the man that she swore essayed her and assaulted her. Just like what they did with Cassie when they tried to show that they had this is basically just their relationship versus him being a vicious monster that he is. Let's face it. Um, so I'm really curious as to when the prosecution redirect Mia, um, how that they're gonna go and how they're gonna redeem this woman in her testimony, because y'all, it was some crazy stuff that was brought out in in today's court hearing. And as we know, CNN provides a transcript for those that want, so you could actually read over what happened in the court for today. But my question was, before people started really coming on, is do you feel that Krishna Corcoran is going to be called as a witness for the prosecution so they can question her about her dealings with P. Diddy, because she was sort of his right hand woman. And some might say she was his co-conspirator of this whole thing. She was the reason why he was allowed to get away with some of the stuff that he was um, able to get away with. Um, and many witnesses have mentioned her in their testimony as to being a partaker in some of this organized crime that has been happening throughout his organization, as far as P. Diddy, Bad Boy Entertainment, and other business ventures that he has. Um, so they're trying to pin, they're really trying to prove the point of the sex trafficking of ex workers. We're going to say ex workers because of the censorship that a lot of YouTubers have been getting when it comes to this platform around this case. I mean, even with my recent upload that I uploaded right before this live that I came on, they gave me a claim, but I disputed it right away because there was nothing on there that violated anything. And it were a lot of YouTubers from speaking on this case is mind-boggling. It makes one to believe that this man has some type of control, more than what we know of, or maybe it's just a legal a legal thing far as YouTube. But man, I mean, the theory is out there with him paying people to silence them. But it was mentioned on one of video I was watching with uh, Law and Crime Network, where they were saying that on September 16, 2024, they seized uh, Christina Coram's, I'm sorry, cell phone. Um, Homeland Security did that last year, September 16th, 2024. So I'm sure that information on this woman tying her in, and more than likely she has some type of immunity. As I said before, it seems like everybody has immunity when it comes to this case. I mean, who are we going to get outside of P. Diddy if everybody has immunity? Now, with immunity, if they self-incriminate themselves in their testimony, showing that they played a significant part in carrying this out, then guess what? They can still be charged. That does not, the immunity protects them to a certain extent, but if they self-incriminate themselves, they too can do time as well. So, a lot of these witnesses do have to be careful, even when they're speaking for the prosecution side. And then some might get subpoenaed to speak on the case because they just don't want to. But in the alternative mean that they can come after you for not talking. Um, this case is this case is mind-boggling at the very least. It is how just one man has so much power and control over so many people. And like I've said in my earlier video today, and even when I was on the live with Law and Crime Network, when I asked that question, I really truly feel, and attorney off his panel agreed, that a lot of this is because these people are thinking, because of that freaking NDA that P. Diddy has his people to sign, they are allowed to speak about certain things. And then you get them to a certain point where they're fearful of doing so because the amount of power that this man has. And there's speculation going around that maybe he has tainted the jury, so to speak, that he even had pulled with them because of what they are doing, which is kind of because normally you wouldn't be able to get away with that. If not so much from the prosecution, from the judge themselves. If they witness this stuff that the jury is doing that they're not allowed to do, they supposed to direct them. Hey, you got to get. Will be no more of that because um, persuade. It can persuade a narrative surrounding the case versus dealing with strictly facts. That's why they tell the jurors not to listen to the news, not to follow any information outside of the courtroom. That's why they're giving those strict instructions not to do that, so that way they can remain as biased as possible. Now, in this particular case, because it's so well known, it's kind of hard not to know some of it, no matter what. But there are certain guidelines they're supposed to be sticking to when it comes to this thing, and a lot of it they're not doing. You've cut your hair since the last time I thought you like, oh no, it's not cut. My hair is extremely curly. So it's very curly. I didn't cut anything. And when the curls fall down, because I had recently washed it, so my curls are extremely tight. But when the curls drop, then my hair will show again. I ain't cut no hair. Child, please, no. I'm old. I don't grow back as fast. It's just a very, very curly. I have real, real curly hair. Um, and hence why I said I was gonna do my hair a little different because normally I have it up in the ponytail with my little bang down. I actually made this twist headband that I got on today, and I wanted to just wear my hair down a little bit because I washed my hair. But enough of me, Diamond. Thank you for the compliment, Diamond Sticks. How do y'all feel about the trial and so far what's been happening with the trial? With the P. Diddy trial. I'm curious to know what a lot of my viewers feel about the P. Diddy trial and how it is going so far. They did introduce two more witnesses with the trial, Sylvia Oakland and Eddie Garcia. They haven't really fully went into their testimony, but they introduced them because they'll be speaking up next. I believe Eddie Garcia signed his immunity deal, once again, giving out more immunity deals, which I think, to me personally, I just think this is going to hurt me in the long run. They're just giving everybody freaking immunity. But you're trying to show it as an organizational unit, but you're taking the components out of it by giving them all these freaking immunities. But Eddie Garcia did sign an immunity today with the prosecution in front of the judge for his testimony. He was supervisor at the hotel. So after hopefully redirect Mia, and I'm really praying to the high heavens above, they redirect so they can kind of salvage what the defense team has done to her testimony. I mean, she was saying some weird stuff, y'all. I mean, this lady was talking about she was having dreams. She wrote him a text message telling him how she was having a dream about R. Kelly was chasing her in his dream, and P. Diddy rescued her from R. Kelly. Okay, what that could have mean, honey, was that you almost potentially got into one fire and you jumped out of there and about to go into another one with your boss Diddy. That's probably what it was trying to tell you. But in the dream, she was saying P. Diddy rescued her. And so of course they cut her up with that statement. Like, what was the point of you even saying that, child? Did they ask you about this particular one? I mean, why bring it up? But of course, she elaborated on it, and they tore her down. It's almost as if they did not prep this woman well, and that is on the prosecution. Annabella Tolliver, It's your birthday tomorrow. Well, happy early birthday to you. And Diamond in the Sticks, I've not watched anything about it since he got put in jail, to be honest. It's so much. Like, you really have to stay in tune because there's so many twists and turns in this case. As each witness come out, so many people was hush hush, trying to save their own neck and their own job that they allowed so much to happen, and then some people just held him as king and did some ridiculous stuff, and he wasn't even paying a lot of these people no real money. Like, you risking your freedom for mere change in finding any regular job, other than the fact that you are with a celebrity. Simply, hey, how you doing? Simply, thanks for joining the live tonight. Yeah, I mean, they are literally risking the freedom for mere pennies on the dollar. You could have been paid. He ain't like he paid y'all that. The only people he paid millions, $1 million were people he was trying to keep it on the hush hush that he needed to utilize. His staff, he paid mere pennies and treated them like complete dirt and violated them and had them to do his dirty work. That ain't worth it. I'm sorry. That is not worth it just to say you are working for a celebrity, regardless of what he was threatening you with. Sometimes that's why that whole saying, money ain't everything. And you have to really, and I don't want to, so I'm not saying this to go against the victims, because there are victims, they were programmed this way to think because it was misled. They're trapped in this victim mentality because of how he groomed them to be. But at the same token, as you got older, at some point it's time to go. I mean, I can't understand that for someone who's young, immature, don't really know the ropes and just trying to really hang on in here. But at some point, when you get older, you have to say enough is enough. And look, this is wrong, and I'm not standing for it. Hey Jordan, how you doing? Simply, do you think we're all brainwashed or the people around him had low self-esteem? Well, it's a little bit of both because that's what they was tearing Mia down on because she herself was talking to people, giving them encouragement to do what she herself could not do. She admitted that because they was like, well, were you a leader of some sort, being that you were instructing other people to do something that you yourself could not do. And she was basically saying, no, I wasn't a leader. I didn't look at myself as a leader. Matter of factly, she was saying that she had like low self-esteem. So it's like, I don't know, to me, it's like he sought out a certain type of person that had certain characteristics that he knew that he could take advantage of. And then for the ones that may be somewhat strong-willed, he held their oh, you will never work in this town again. On top of the fact he was a little crazy. Like, I was going in my last video, I was going to put in an interview that I found on him where he was talking to his dad. And I'm gonna still do a video on that, but I had to put it on a separate video because of the way I had did this last video that I uploaded. I'm going to put that on there so you can hear it in his own words, how he idolized his father, who was the head of a gang. And if you sort of look at how he's doing his organization, his people to do his biddings, it's no different than what his dad did in the street. He's just doing it in a corporate world, if not even worse than what his father did. This man is crazy. Huh? Can you put me in as who can time people out? Uh, as my mod Jordan, yeah, I guess I can. Hold on, let me see. Just just whenever you're doing the mods, Jordan, we don't want to X everybody out for their opinion. The people are entitled to their opinion, as long as they're not being rude and nasty and very offensive to others. Um, So got to make a good judgment call on that when we're trying to get people up out of here. Yes, you just said it as I was typing. Right, like um, simply yeah, like it has to be the fact that he had a certain image of who he could and who he could not control. And a lot of his people he got either when they were at a young age, like even down to his the people he put in the industry, so he could mold and shape these people into who he wanted them to be. Like this man is twisted. He is twisted as crap. Um, and the deeper I get to know of him, like I said, he showed y'all some of the characteristics that he had, even in making of the van thing. That was one series thing that I could not watch. I couldn't even get into that. I quickly stopped watching as fast as I started watching. Just because of his demeanor and how he talked down to people, it just wasn't resonating within myself to tolerate watching that mess. Oh, I would not. It will be for people who are buying. It will be for people who are buying. I'm not sure I understand, Jordan. Um, yeah, so yeah, ooh, y'all, this is serious. And then of course the talk was whether or not President Trump was going to pardon him. Um, I don't, I don't think so. Me personally, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. Even though, somebody had brought up a case yesterday, which I went and looked back. I remember hearing something about it. Like I told him yesterday, I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm not really sure, just off the top of my head. But when I went to look at that case, they told me to go look at the Katie Johnson case. And it was tied into Donald Trump. So when we were talking about the Donald Trump pardoning P. And Trump himself was accused of big R for a 13-year-old child. That's just crazy. Um, Sad. This case has so many turns. Don't think you can even really tell how it will go until the end of the case. Right, simply. I really do think the outcome, I think right now the prosecution has the lead on the case. I honestly and truly feel they have the control of it. They may lose control if they don't start gearing in more towards the organizational crimes versus this individual stuff. Because the picture has already been painted about P Diddy. He's evil. He beats his people. He controls his people and stuff like that. But now it's time to work in everybody that he utilized to carry out all this mess. So much so as keep drilling in the fact that he's just straight up evil. We all got that. You know what I mean? They proved that without a shadow of a doubt. And the crazy part is he ain't denying none of this stuff. No, I did not go to court today. Well, my thing was I was hoping I could get out there sometime soon, possibly by the end of this week. But I was researching how everything is going down and how you're able to actually get inside the courtroom. From my understanding, there's only 14 people that can go inside the courtroom outside of the press. So if you're not the press, only 14 people can actually go in the courtroom. Everybody else have to go into the overflow room. But in order for you to go into the overflow room, you have to be in line. Lines start forming somewhere between 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning. Now, the courthouse is about 3.5, 4 hours away from where I have to plan that. Because in order for me to be there, I'm gonna have to be there the day before I plan on showing up and doing a live at the court. So I'm thinking more of planning to be there for the verdict or around the last week of the trial, maybe getting me a hotel or something and staying in New York for that whole week because there's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to be at the courthouse at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, standing in no line with me being where I am, and I have to drive for 3.5 to 4 hours to get there. That just is not going to work. Um, I'm going to have to be there the day before, and then for me personally, after seeing this, I'm gonna have to be here for a couple of days. It ain't gonna be just no run in that like I was thinking. I mean, I guess I was just so hyped. I found out I was that close to it that I can do this back and forth thing. But realistically, no, it ain't gonna happen. What I find myself doing is going down there, getting there right before court, right just after court start, and then I'm outside just waiting to see who I'm gonna see coming out of the courtroom. Um, and whether or not that's worth it or not, I guess that will get me some views. But I want to be in the court. I want to get a feel. I want to see my own eyes. To see, to get the feel of what's really actually happening in that courtroom. He is do bad in the office. Heard they have had line holders who take a fee for people who want to go in. Yes, and the discounted fee was $150. That was a discount. Not only is there line holders, because of course if you got to go to the bathroom, you don't lost your space. But there also are you need bodyguards out there. I witnessed it myself on other people's lives. I have been on watching them and trying to talk to them at the courthouse where people just start doing some outright crazy behind stuff to those people. Where they be yelling at them, they be trying to strike up an argument or whatever. The whole Gene Deal thing went down. Another YouTuber, Tisha Tells, I was watching her and saw part of that argument with Gene Deal and the other YouTuber where he was literally cussing Gene Deal out for absolutely no reason because he felt like he wasn't giving him his time to talk to him. I mean, you could try to address people, but you can't force nobody to talk to you, which ultimately caused them to get into a physical altercation. And from my last update with Gene Deal, I believe they banned him from coming to the courthouse because of the fight that happened in the elevator. Elevator with said YouTuber trying his goddamn 15 minutes of fame. So like a lot of stuff is going down and around that place. On top of course, the New York big city, we know they already got their own crime issues as well. I'm sure it's heavily guarded down there, but you better be on your P's and Q's and have some backup with you and what you doing when you going down into that high profile case. It ain't just in my head. I'm thinking because I've never dealt with a high power case before, like any other here, which I know is going to be somewhat different because it is celebrities. You have celebrities coming out. People just want to get a glimpse of the celebrity. But I didn't think that's kind of like to the extreme. But as we're watching this stuff unfold, um, yeah, a lot of stuff is taking place behind the scenes with people who are trying to just get the stories, talk to people about the story and stuff like that. Right. People are really in their feelings. And you know how they do you're on YouTube and how they cause problems with you online as a creator and as people that you're interacting with, how some people kind of get just ugh, well, that's in real life. Now they can see you and know who you are and they know exactly where you're at. And so if they're in that city or if they're around you and they know or they feel like, well, if you're outside talking on your phone with your stand, they know you're talking about the case. And depending on how they feel or they're feeling toward the case, they can try to take stuff out on you. So you like I'm seeing it more for what it is. And I know it's gonna take more than just me going there, popping up, um trying to get my coverage of this. You better come prepared for that. Because and really you better come prepared with the mindset that anything can happen and then have a way to be able to handle yourself when you're there. It's not just simply you going there, you talking about it, and that's it. Because I've been on multiple lives of people that are down there, and it gets crazy on these lives from people that are just out there watching and how they're attacking these people for just a freaking public trial. People need to. Mm. I don't know. And I know how I am, baby girl. I know how I am. I'm gonna be locked up somewhere. Long about putting some hands versus pew pewing, and it's not like you can carry something in the court to secure yourself that way. Like you can do that because yeah, you can't even carry your phone up inside that courtroom overflow room because they don't want you recording. So yeah, I had to really rethink that whole thing. And try to find a different way to come at this on a regular until the very end and then have that planned out um for my own protection. I would love to be there, but just realistically with what I'm seeing, yeah, mm-mm, no. Uh, Understood. Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy, but I did find another way. Like I did today where I was on a well-known YouTuber's live earlier today. And they were doing like a poll with the community. They pulled one of my questions. I was throwing questions out there because I'm really trying to get a feel of what's going on. And this particular YouTuber, he's not there at the courthouse, but he has someone that's out there reporting back that's inside the courtroom, so they're getting live information. But what he did was he has this thing where he opens up to the public. So as long as you're subscribed to the channel, you kind of interact with his panel. And on the panel, I believe he himself is a former attorney, but his panel of people are also attorneys who have dealt with profile cases as well as criminal cases as well. And you get an opportunity to ask questions to the panel. And surprisingly, one of my questions, one of many that I was shooting, along with my opinion on how I felt about it from my legal understanding, um, was actually selected, and the panel was discussing what I asked, and I thought that was neat. So I was like, well, this could be another the way how to kind of interact. Of course, that probably ain't gonna happen all the time, but I'm getting as much. Oh, okay, yeah. I'm getting as much information as possible that I can, without me actually there, and trying to give it to the viewers on a factual basis, as much as factual basis as possible. And like I said, CNN, they do give out a transcript of the court, so you can, even though you don't hear it, you can read word from word what was said from one person to the next. Of course, that ain't free though. They do charge for that. Um, but like I've said on many of lives, it ain't nothing like in there though. Like the difference of actually being in the courtroom versus you getting it after the fact. And I wouldn't necessarily say the transcripts are secondhand because they're not. That's exactly what was said in the courtroom. Um, so you know, I'm still getting the information just in a different way. So I present it to my people that may not have heard because some of this information, but it's so many YouTubers out there that's covering this, and are doing wonderful jobs on it. I just like, I love law. I love the interaction of law. I love being able to play whatever part I can and fully, getting the grasp of this whole case. Because we're literally in a historic. I think we're in the middle of a huge historical case that's gonna go down in the books. This one, and prayerfully, our crazy behind president don't overturn what they're doing, because then that's just like you just wasted the taxpayers' money and everybody's time with this trial just to go and pardon somebody that is absolutely guilty. You know. Um, Hearing weird stuff about the jurors. What do you think? Me personally, and I hate to put this out because, but me personally, just listening to what is happening with the jury, I honestly think this man probably got somebody in the jury. It's known that can happen, especially in high profile cases. They're called what they're called is like sleepers in the jury. So it's Someone that and anybody who ever went through jury selection, you know how that work. You know, they call you down, they take you through all these questions, because I've have went through jury selection myself. Not, I don't know necessarily, you don't know what case you're going through jury selection on, but at the time that you're doing it, but they gear questions around trying to eliminate people that may be biased, that may not remain biased, but who have an opinion already formulated in their mind about what's going on. So they try to weed that stuff. But for cases that are like this, where people who have some money and they can pay people that's supposed to be doing this the right way, sometimes that stuff can slip through, and can influence the jury one way or the other. The way it looks, just because of the stuff that is being allowed to happen and nobody ain't doing nothing about it, it makes people wonder if something is happening with that jury. If this man had that much pull on the outside world, who's to say he's not influencing somebody on that jury to either give them, make them be a hung jury, or to try to persuade people, for his benefit. But like I said, I hate to say that, because if it is proven that's what's going on, then they can ask for a mistrial, but they can ask for a mistrial with a stipulation of retrying the case, depending on who calls this out. Because we already saw with the defense, they tried to declare a mistrial already based off of one freaking testimony that didn't even make sense with the mistrial. And I'm glad the judge did not feed into that foolishness when they tried it. I mean, they tried everything. He have a solid, now I gotta give it to him. He got a solid team there. Array of lawyers on his side. He has a very solid team. But one thing you got to know about the prosecution, when they bring federal charges with cases like this, their success rate is darn near perfect. It really is, because by the time they get it to this point, they already have the cases basically done. They just presenting it in front of everybody. They don't have behind it when when the feds take on cases like this. Um, it normally be a sure thing, but it ain't guaranteed that they're gonna win. So let's. I think maybe on this case it might be a bit of um over cockiness of thinking they got it in the bag, too fast. And they're allowing certain to happen that maybe they shouldn't happen. But then again, people thinking, now I don't think with the state, but people thinking people are being paid off here. Um, and that's the narrative that is circling around. Like, how much control does this man really have? Who does this guy have on his roster that is allowing certain things to happen? Um, yeah, and like I said, I hope not, but it makes one wonder what's really going on, because a lot of stuff that is happening, especially with that jury, should not be happening at all. Not at all. That judge should be catching that. That prosecutor should be catching it and asking the judge for them to be corrected. I mean, they are um set for some strict guidelines on what they cannot do, and they must carry that out to the T. You hear me? So that way, if he is convicted, for most of these cases, they do try to do them on appeal. But if you close that thing up and you do it the right way, you leave no room for an appeal. They might try it, but there's no grounds for it. That's why the federal cases, ain't too many cases they don't win. When the feds get involved, it's almost a sure thing. Um, but like I said, it's just some things that are happening in this case. It's just making people wonder. It's making people wonder, like, what is really going on here, which makes me believe it's it's probably higher than him. He's probably just a fall guy for all this. He's just probably a small fry in a bigger in a bigger pan. There's somebody way above him that is doing something similar, you know. But they might just let him, fall through the cracks and get caught up. I don't know. It's just, like I hate to throw it out there, but it's hard not to see it as it's happening. Um, yeah, y'all. So, right. So my question to the people that are watching this live, like, what is your feel for this trial? Like, what is y'all take on it? Far as what has happened so far, for the information that y'all know about the trial, what are your feelings on it? I don't know if my person is still there. Yeah, 'cause how did he get away with this so far for so many years and so many around him just kept quiet? Right, right. They're compared to the Ernestine case. Uh, yeah, like some of the same questions they asking for him, but we see what happened to him. He locked up. Um, I just feel like at the end of this thing, when it's all said and done, if he do get convicted, he is going to squeal like a pig, baby. He is going to tell on everybody. You hear me? Everybody gonna get told. Because he just give you that. He just give you that. Persona about himself that if I'm going down, I ain't going down by myself. All y'all coming right on with me. We all gonna be up inside right along together. I just feel like he's right now because there's a chance for him not to go down, and that the defense is poking holes through a lot of this stuff that he's holding out. But in the end, when he finally get that verdict, baby, I think a lot is gonna come out. A lot is going to come out. Right. And Hollywood is not going to be the same Hollywood. The industry is not going to be the same industry because so many high profile names have already been mentioned already. And I mean, some big people, which make you wonder, like, does he have any connections to people that were severely hurt or removed off the face of this earth? We were just given one reason for their demise when really it was something else. It's just like this case is. That's why I said I think we like in the middle of his. We are really in the middle. We are witnessing something major with this case. And I think it goes far beyond just P. Diddy. That's just my personal. I think it's way more higher up people. And I think one of the people they was talking about when he was Clyde Davis. They was trying to connect him as well. Um, but it's gonna come out. Because one thing the prosecutor said, if you didn't come forward and help them or give your testimony so that way they can make sure they get him, then they don't want it after the fact. Once they got their conviction, they basically go after the rest of y'all. And in the middle and in between that, uh, if you self-incriminate yourself, even with these MTs that y'all unsigned, they can still. That's where a lot. I don't think a lot of people realize they can still go after you if you self-incriminate yourself in your testimonies. The immunity is basically just saying, um, we will overlook some things to where if you give us the testimony to help us seal this deal, you won't be held accountable. But if they read that full clause, it says in there, you self-incriminate yourself, then they have all right and legal rights to still come after you, even with an immunity sign. So, and that could be playing a part as to why these people are trying to answer the way they answer in their responses too. But I don't think they will allow him to be around to talk. Seat sniffer. Ooh, okay, that's an interesting name. Goody, how you doing? You say, but I don't think they will allow him to be around to talk. So you talk. So if he get convicted, you think they're gonna go ahead and delete him? Now that could be a strong possibility too. They might take that out, just like he probably been taking people out all these years. That you might be on them now. Um, but this case could really go up to, I think we're just entering into week 4 of the case. It could actually last up to like 10 weeks. So we have a potential another 6 weeks that this case can actually go out on. Then that's, and we ain't even hit on the witnesses for the defense. Do y'all feel like P. Diddy gonna actually take the stand? That was one of the talks everybody was talking about, whether or not they felt P. Diddy would actually take the stand himself and speak up for himself. Now, Suge Knight, who is locked up, tried to offer him some advice and tell him he need to go ahead and tell his side of the story so he don't go to jail. But people are making light of that. They like, what's up? Did they help you? I mean, because you still out. You locked up your darn self. So I don't know, right or wrong, would I be taking advice from a man that's sitting in prison his darn self at this point? You said you doubt that. You don't think he gonna talk? Well, yeah, it's the whole, and I know it happens all the time with all cases where family and friend be like, I just know that he ain't not that type of person and he wouldn't do that. But like, are y'all looking at what? What are you looking at? Or you saw it, but you just turned a blind eye to it, and you trying to convince us to do otherwise. Because they had a close friend of his come on and was talking about how he don't believe this is true, and people are making this stuff up about him. And one of the reporters was like, "Well, did you see the videos?" Like, and he was like, "Well, I saw what y'all saw, and yes, And then they try to make it seem like, "Oh, I didn't know he was taking drugs." I mean, I was watching one of the videos that I'm going to release. I'll probably wait until tomorrow to release this one, where he was actually at a birthday party and other events. The dude looked like, in like when interviews, he looked like he was on drugs then. I mean, I think a lot of people are turning a blind eye to his foolishness all because he got money and you're just wanting to be a part of whatever he got going on versus you actually looking at facts and seeing things for what they are. Because I just find this hard to believe. None of y'all are acting like y'all didn't see this stuff was happening. I just find it so hard to believe, especially if you say you are, was, and is as close to this man as you claim to be. There's just absolutely no way. No way. Because he might really mess things up for himself. He is so proud and arrogant, right? Girl, he is definitely that. He is very arrogant. He is a mess. You hear me? And the crazy part was I was listening to a interview with Gene Deal, and he was talking about how Puffy really was before he made all his money and stuff. It was like he didn't have the confidence when it came to a woman. The cockiness that he's portraying now because he have all his money, he was never that. And even after the money, he uses other people to bring him the women, and then of course the money is what keeps him there. But like this whole facade that he got going on about himself, like, yeah, if he do take that stand, baby, it's probably gonna be a wrap. He probably better do the very opposite of what Suge Knight told him and keep his behind off that stand if he knows what's best for him. Because the prosecution they get him. They gonna get him. And from my understanding, really the burden of proof isn't on the defense. The burden of proof is on the prosecution. So he really don't have to take the stand in order to defend himself. But that can take a turn as well. That can be looked upon negatively for the court of public opinion as well. So, you know. I'm just like I'm real interested what is going to take place tomorrow, day 15 of this trial, especially with the sneak peek of witnesses that we were able to hear from today. Very interesting. And also, like his right hand woman, not man, that right hand woman, Cece, what's her name? Christina Coram. That's the one I want to see. That's the testimony I want to see because I know it's coming. There's just no way that testimony ain't coming. Because if she ain't testifying for prosecution, they will definitely probably be going after her as a co-conspirator. Her and that goddamn security guard of his, um, D Rock, which there's a comedian by the name of D Rock. When I first heard them call him that, I was like, I know good and well D Rock ain't doing this mess. But but when I saw the pictures, I was like, oh no, that's somebody else. Because there's a comedian that go by the name of D Rock too. But it wasn't him. But at first, until I saw that picture of that, and then he was a bodyguard. Now this the well, I guess he could be a bodyguard, but he's a comedian, so because he got the bill on him if he wanted. Yeah, but that kind of threw me, child. What was he in D Rock? I'm like, D Rock, isn't he a comedian? Like, is he tied in with this mess too? But at the end of it all, we probably all be shocked who is actually tied into this. Like a lot of them are still in B and Jay Z. They next on the roster because although they got over on that last thing, they ain't completely out of the woods yet. Because P Diddy and Jay Z were like this. They locked in for real. Um, so I think like a lot of people, including myself, are waiting to see are they going to connect him again to this whole thing as well. Um, so this is going to be a very interesting next 5 to 7 weeks of this trial. And I plan on staying with it as much as possible, trying to give as much update. And I'll be taking some crazy behind notes, y'all, on this trial for my videos and for discussions and stuff like that, and questions that I want to ask, people that are actually there at the courthouse, so I can get my perspective and feel via over the internet of what actually is happening. After all the craziness coming out, I won't be surprised if really art is involved. Exactly. I wouldn't either. I mean, I wouldn't, but will all at the same time. I think we all are going to be freaking like in shock and awe when this before this whole thing is said and done and is over with. But is there anybody want to say anything else? I appreciate everybody for being on this live. If you're still on, make sure you hit that like button to get this going through the algorithm. I thank y'all so much for joining me on the live to discuss the P Diddy trial day 14, and I will be back tomorrow to give you more updates on the P Diddy trial. As always, be your brothers and your sisters keeper. Keep God first. Y'all don't just stay back there being quiet. Join into the conversation because that make it interesting. And as always, toodles. Talk to y'all later.